Good morning, everybody. I thought I would invite you into my house today and show you how I start seeds. It's Labor Day. It's September, and now is the time of year when I start seeds to plant. I'll plant little seedlings out now and overwinter them, and they have a good strong start in the spring. So they're what we call hardy annuals. If you ever are interested in doing this whole idea comes from Ziegler, who wrote this book, Cool Flowers. I really enjoy the book, and I enjoy her. She's in Virginia, and she's in a very similar zone to me. So what she says is useful for everybody, but it's especially useful for me because her planting times are almost the same as mine. So if she's planting something now, I should be planting it now. So it's really wonderful to have her as a resource. She has a YouTube page and a website and a Facebook page. She does live videos all the time, but she's just started putting them up on YouTube also under the Gardener's Workshop. So check her out. I'm going to be using my mini soil blocker. This is a 20 block mini soil blocker today. This is how I start almost all my seeds. And this is the first time I've let anybody in my kitchen. We moved into the house about a month ago. We built this house ourselves, and it's not quite done. So please forgive some of the mess. We haven't done trim on the windows yet, and all of our cabinets came from IKEA. And we love them. We absolutely love them. Nothing wrong at all with them. But there were a few issues with some pieces that were missing, and we haven't had a chance to get them replaced yet. So there's a drawer front over here. I don't know if you can see that. And two doors that are missing from that. So we need to get all those pieces replaced. But we love our IKEA kitchen. So let me get started on my soil blocking for my seeds. This, I actually... I mixed up my soil this morning and I added a little too much water. So it's very soupy. I do like it on the soupy side for soil blocking. We're going to try this. It may be a little too soupy. This is, I doubled the recipe, but a normal recipe is 4 quarts of peat moss and 1 quart of some sort of compost, and then a 1/4 cup of green sand and a 1/4 cup of rock phosphate. And I'll attach that recipe below, and that is Lisa Ziegler's recipe. So I'll probably attach a link to her page where she talks about soil blocking. And then there's a certain amount of water that she always said to add. That never seemed like enough to me. I think it's really kind of a, well, not a preference thing, but you just have to see what works best for you. So to use a soil blocker, and we'll see how this, some days it's in a good mood and some days it's not. This soil blocker is old. I've had it for years and years and years, and sometimes it just doesn't behave great. So all I do is plunge it in here and mash it down. Boy, it's very wet. Mash it down and try and fill in all these blocks, and it's a little too wet. I'm going to have to add some more soil to this to make it work. So right now I'm just going to shove it in with my fingers because it's so wet it wants to fall right back out. So I'm just pushing it in with the back of my hand. And since we're on film, you know, it's not going to work right. If I was here at home by myself and nobody was watching, it would probably work right time after time after time. I did a seed starting workshop last January. In our area we have a seed exchange, and I did a little demonstration there, and I sold some of these, and a lot of people were not happy with them because they didn't work great. And I'll just say, I think they work beautifully, and I love the idea of not using plastic pots. It takes practice. I think it takes some practice. So don't give up. They're not very expensive. I know it's less than 30. I can't remember exactly how much. Lisa Ziegler carries them on her page also, so I can link to her. So I press down, and then I drop them out, and pretty good. I had one that didn't come out. Nope, he's determined to not come out well. So people, they ask me, don't they fall apart? Don't they make a mess? These are solid little blocks now. That's Look, I can like knock it around. And it has a little divot in the top where you're going to place your seed. And so like that one that didn't make, I'll just make some extra and fill in that hole. I'm going to go ahead and fill these trays. I think I can usually get, I can't remember, it's been so long since I started seeds, either 9 or 12 blocks, sets of blocks on here. Each one is 20, so you can start quite a few seeds on each tray. And after 3 weeks, they'll be big enough that they're ready to go in the garden and I'm done with them. So let me wash my hands, turn off my camera. I'm going to make a bunch more. Well, let me try another. We'll see. I think I am going to have to smash these in by hand. And normally I wouldn't have to do this. The other thing that Lisa Ziegler swears by, and I'm sure it makes a huge difference, is she sifts her compost and her peat. So it's very small pieces going into these tiny soil blocks, and I'm sure that that helps compact them down into these squares. Like I have little pieces of twigs and leaves in here, and so that does probably make them not quite as neat. And I keep saying I'm going to buy a sifter so that I can do that. And I did buy bagged compost this time because I just was feeling lazy and I didn't go out and find some compost in my own pile. So I use bagged compost, but you can use your own if you have good compost. There we go. Oh, now it's a different corner, but it fell out, but it's still good. So I can just put it in there, and that one is good. There's a big piece of grass or twig or something, but there's another block. So I'm going to continue on and fill these trays, and then we'll talk about starting seeds. Okay, I have gotten 2 trays of soil blocks ready. I managed to get 9 blocks on each tray. I think I used to have some trays that were a little bigger and I could get 12, and these seem just a tad smaller, so I get 9. You could smash them closer together, but I don't advise it. You want to have this space in between each set of blocks because you're going to water these by filling the tray, flooding it with water. I mean, not to the top, but just, a little bit every day because they will dry out very quickly. So every single day I water these with just a little bit of water, and it soaks it up right away, and that's it for the day. So you want that water to be able to travel around every set of blocks. So we don't smash any more on than this. It's not worth it. I also have here a bunch of blinds, old vinyl mini blinds. They're already cut into like little pieces here, and these are what I use in pots if I was potting something up, in a bigger like 1 gallon pot or something. But for my soil blocks, I cut them to about this big, and they have to be really tiny because I put 1 in each section, depending on the plant, because the lights that I use are going to be so low hanging that I can't have these markers any taller than this, or they'll get hit by the lights. In fact, that may just be a little too tall. You need the lights very close to your plants to start. I also have, I'm the only one home today, so I'm filming by myself, so I can't zoom in and out. So, I started out with me in the picture, and now it's just about the soil blocks, which is probably more important anyway. So I apologize, I'm not really in the picture anymore. But the other thing I have sitting here is my paper, and I went through all the seeds that I have that are hardy annuals, that they will be strong enough to survive my winter here, and I made a list of how many I wanted to start for each. And almost everything, well, everything I'm doing today for sure is going to be for my cut flowers. So I've been wanting to have cut flowers now for many years, and I've had a few, but like I said, we moved into this house a month ago, so I'm actually out here full time now. I can finally do this. I've really been trying to do this since like 2015 or 16. I first, this whole idea of cut flower businesses got started in my head, and So I've been trying to do it now for years. And finally, I'm living on the property. I have the garden space. I have the water. I'm going to do it. So this is my list of everything I'm going to get started this fall. I can't move that or won't be in focus anymore. I got to remember where my focus point was. It was somewhere right in here. So let me start with, so I have things here like, I have some carnations. I have some, my mind's going blank. Not sunflowers. Those aren't winter hardy. This is one of my favorites. This is called, it's called a lot of things. It's a type of bee balm. It's an annual bee balm, depending on where you live. But it is winter hardy, but it only lives for usually a year. So it's called lemon mint, lemon balm. People call it all kinds of things, but it's one of my absolute favorites, and it's winter hardy. So I'm going to just start, well, no, I was going to start with that, but it's a very dark seed, and when you go to put a very dark seed on these dark blocks, you won't see it at all. Let me try and think of something. Oh, you know what? This would be good. So this is a Rudbeckia, a black-eyed Susan. Not that one. One of them is dyed yellow to help you see it. So that would be really good, because then you'll be able to see when I plant it. Prairie Sun Rudbeckia, and these packets that I'm using right now are from Johnny's Seeds. It's one of my favorite places to order from. So there's no picture. I don't have a picture for this one. So these seeds are a bright yellow seed, so I can, we'll be able to see what I'm doing better. What I have here is a little non-stick mini quiche pan. I'm looking for something that won't hold static, because seeds are very attracted to static, and if you use some sort of dish that was staticky, your seeds are going to fight you all the time. So I put these seeds in something non-staticky, and you can see they're just floating all over in there. What I do, let me write my tag, because I say things like, I'll remember to do that later, and I don't. So, Prairie Sun, Rudbeckia, and I usually write the date. And I stick it in each block. Now, Lisa Ziegler has a much bigger production than I do, and she would only put one type of flower on this tray. So I got 9 blocks of 20, that's 180 blocks. I don't need 180 plants of this. I think I only said I was going to start 40 of them. I did 40 of each kind that I have. So that's 2 blocks. The problem with starting different types of plants on the same tray is that they could grow at different speeds. And so, you know, these Rudbeckias could get tall, and something else could be still trying to germinate and be very short, and I need to raise the light to accommodate this tall plant. So you do have to be careful, but it hasn't been too big of a problem for me. But I will say that she would recommend you only start one type of plant per tray, and there's very good reason for that. So here's what I do, and you can't see me, which is probably good. Hopefully you can only see my hands. So I have these seeds in here, and I have a toothpick, and I just stuck that toothpick in my mouth, so it's a little wet, and it grabs a seed. It's almost like magnetized, and when I touch it to the soil, it's going to drop off. And I don't keep licking it. It doesn't need it. It's already moist. So I'm never wasting seed. I am putting one seed in the center of every, and I can see exactly what I'm doing. Now, if I was doing a darker seed, it is harder to see if it falls off. Uh-oh, now I've done it. I dropped it too early. There we go. If it falls off in the dirt, sometimes it's hard to see if your seed is actually there. I do have a magnifying ring light that it's actually my husband's. I bought it for him for tying fishing flies, but I stole it from him, and now I use it for this. But And that works great for me to get extra light on there and see if there's a seed dropped in there. If you drop an extra seed, it's not a big deal, but you don't want 3 or 4 seeds in each little block here. There's not enough room. These are tiny little blocks. You don't want all the root competition. You'd have to cut away the extra plants and only leave one. So I just love, I'm a little neurotic sometimes, guys, and I love how neat this is. When they come up, you just have this perfect tray of plants, and the germination rate is great. So I'll just have 20 perfect little plants in their own perfect little square, and it's just magical. I love it. I did say I was going to do 40 of these, so I'm going to do that. Now, something else I did on my sheet while I'm planting these is I figured out, so Rudbeckia has a spacing recommended of 9" each. So I have a little chart that shows me that in my 3-foot row or 3.5-foot row out in my garden, I can plant such and such number of plants. And if it's a 9" plant, I don't have that sheet in front of me, I believe it was 16 plants for every 3-foot section. So I also have charted out like how many feet I need. If I plant 40 of these, how many feet in my garden will that take up, so I know if I have enough garden space tilled up and ready to go. So I know it sounds a little neurotic, but you know, for the past few years I've been winging it a little bit, and time gets away from me. I don't have enough space prepared. I don't have the right materials, and this just helps me know that I am really ready to go. I've got the right amount of garden space ready. I've got the right amount of plants I need for next year for the sales that I want. This is not a lot of sales. This is not a lot of Rudbeckia. But it's my start. So that's 40 seeds of this Rudbeckia. Now these are a little slower to germinate, so that's one of the reasons I'm starting with that, in case I don't get all mine done today. I want these going. And I'll share with you my setup for my lights in a little while. It may not be today, because I did get my starting stand inside, my light stand inside, and I found all my lights. And I have my heat mats, because I start these on heat mats, because bottom heat is the secret to these just popping out of the ground within days. Sometimes literally it's overnight. In fact, there was some seed, it might have been Status, last year, literally within like 4 hours I had germination. That is such a satisfying experience. So seed starting mats, heat mats, and then lights. And I am not going to cover these. There's not many. Actually, these literally say light is needed for germination, so I'm not going to cover these. There's very few seeds that I do cover. Most of them need light. I know we're used to covering seeds, but it's not always required. So let's do the rest of these Rudbeckias. These are Cherry Brandy Rudbeckia. Now these are a really dark seed. Same color as my dirt. So we'll see how well that goes. Let me write my tag. What did I say? Cherry Brandy. Now, this may not be possible for everybody, you know, depending on your zone. You may not be able to start these right now. These are tender perennials in zone 9 to 10. That means I'm pretty iffy here. I'm in a 7A right now. But I've started these before, so I know I can. Usually you want to be, like, if a plant is hardy in your zone, so if it said 3 to 7, and I'm 7A, then I know it can survive the winter out there. And I can start it now, it'll survive through the winter and be growing super strong and early in the spring. That one's a 910. I'm a zone 7A. It's a little iffy, so I'm probably going to take a little extra care with it. So I know you can't see from over there, but I can see these seeds because of their shape. They're kind of long and skinny. They kind of stand out in these little divots that I have. You get a little tiny round black seed, and it's really hard to see them down there. And you have to be careful. Like, I just dropped that one. What was I going to say? Oh, don't get distracted. If it's a dark seed and you have a hard time seeing it, like, you know, don't let your kids come in and start talking to you in the middle of this, because you'll totally lose track of where you were and not know which cells had seeds and which one didn't. That one got 2, because 2 stuck to my toothpick. So I think I stopped in the middle of my story. I found my lights. I found my mats for starting seeds. I cannot find my power strips. I have 2 big power strips that I use for this. Can't find them anywhere. And we're in a much smaller house than we were before. So there's a lot of things that have kind of packed away, like decorations that I can't fit in here yet, or maybe not ever. And I'm afraid I might have stuck them in the top of one of those boxes and they're put away and I can't get them. So I've got to find my power strips before I can set up my light stand, but it has to happen today. So I'm just going to continue on with that. Some of the other things that I would start this time of year, the big one is going to be well, status doesn't have a zone written. I know that it's a little iffy in this area, but I did some last year and it did great. I can't find any of my packs for. There. Snapdragons. Snapdragons are the perfect plant to start in the fall. They can take the winter beautifully. We even had them when I lived in Illinois. They would take the winter beautifully. So they're going to be perfect here. So I start a lot of snapdragons right now. Some carnations, things like that. So I'm going to continue on with this. And once I get all my trays done, I think I'm going to have 4 or 5 trays to do everything that I wanted to start. I will find those power strips and I will get set up on my light stand and I'll show you that. Okay, everybody, you caught me. I'm really a slacker. I said when I made these soil blocks that I would walk right in there and finish this video and show you my setup, and it's now exactly a week later and I'm finally getting around to that. So here is one of the trays I worked on last Monday in the beginning of this video. This is these 2 in the front that are all germinating are the Prairie Sun Rudbeckia, and next to them are the Cherry Brandy. And this one, I don't know if I can get it to focus. I talked about the lemon mint, or the lemon bee balm, the one that's known by so many things. These just started today. I had 1 this morning and now there's 2. So 7 days on those. Here's some status that I started, and I have I believe this whole tray is snapdragons. These don't look so great because I had them on the bottom shelf and somebody's cat decided to play in them. These, what are you guys? Feverfews. This was a lot of different types of feverfews. So my stand is something my husband made for me. Right now it's 3 feet wide, and I just have these 2-foot lights on them, which is not ideal. So I rotate my plants back and forth, side to side, so they get even light. This winter I think I'm gonna get a 4-foot shelf and put 4-foot lights on it. But I also have underneath a heat pad. I believe the name of these is Vivasun. These are programmable heat mats. You can set them to whatever temperature you want. So I have these different gauges on the side, and I can set it for whatever temp I want. It's not set for 80. It's just so warm back here that that's the actual temperature. You're supposed to take these little rods, and they go in a soil block, and let's watch it. It'll probably go down. But this, yep, there it goes. It just moved when I moved to that tray. It moved out of the way. This back room is kind of my utility room. You can hear the noise in the background. Maybe that's my big freezer, and my washer and dryer's back here. So this room stays really warm anyway. I probably don't even need this. And if I was starting out again, I would probably not buy the programmable ones. I have had to fix these temperature sensors. The wiring on them went out, so I've had to replace that part of it. And really, you only need... There's my dog drinking. Really, Mitchell? You only need 1 or 2 degrees probably, especially, I guess it depends on your room and the time of year. I'm only going to need a couple degrees. If you're in your basement and you live up north, you're probably going to need a lot of extra help getting it warm enough. So it might depend on what you need. Whether you want a programmable one that definitely will keep your temperature between like 68 and 70 degrees, or if you just get a heat mat that keeps things like about 3 or 4 degrees warmer than room temperature. So that's my setup. It works really well. You can see all my little plant babies growing. They'll probably get another 1.5 to 2 weeks, and they'll be out in the garden. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you guys are headed into a good seed starting season. Happy gardening!